Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here, and welcome to my review for Mashin Sentai Kiramager episode 19, and let me start by saying I'm sorry if you can hear the weed whacker or whatever's going on outside. I waited forever for them to stop so I could start recording this, and they just wouldn't stop, and unlike Captain America, I can't do this all day. Hopefully I'll just try to talk loud enough over it. No, but I don't think it'll be that bad, but I'm sorry about that if, you know, that's really— oh, stop for a second. No, start it again. Stop. Hit him with a stop and go. This week's episode was kind of more of just a silly, dumb filler, but I still found it to be entertaining. We'll get into that, but let's just talk about it because it was a body swap episode, and if you're a Sentai fan, you know that's a staple. I feel like almost every series has had some version of it, so it's almost like a rite of passage to have it, but it was with a twist because all 5 Rangers body swapped, and they body swapped with their mecha. And so long as I've been watching Sentai, I haven't seen all the series, but all the ones I've seen where they've had some form of sentient mecha, I can't recall a time where they've really switched with them. Maybe it's happened and I forgot it, or it's in a series I haven't seen, but regardless, even if it's been done before, it's not something that's done all the time compared to the Rangers switching, or switching with like a mentor or a side character. So that was cool. So we start off, and you have Juru is teaching the target audience for Power Rangers right now, and he's having a hard time with it, so he's going to the others for advice. And when he's going to them for advice, you know, the Kirame Stones are being all their hype mans. They're giving him compliments and stuff and sort of setting up part of the premise of this episode. And they get interrupted by an attack by Joki that Silver's already fighting, and Joki's being weird and he's doing like a little jig and acting funny. And when they go to fight it, the Megazord gets hit with something and it falls back on Silver, which is a funny moment, and that's when you realize they've all swapped. And so you have the Kirame Stones in the Rangers' bodies and the Rangers in the Kirame Stones' body, and they're trying to figure it out. And it leads to all kinds of entertaining stuff in the episode, like right when they're at the base trying to figure it out, and then Juru, or Fire Juru, Furu, has to go teach the class since he's got the obligation, kind of another classic trope like a Freaky Friday bit. And Juru's worried about it, so he follows them there. And Fire shows the kids an inside scoop at how Toku crossovers are written, and what to do with that writing. And so after that, though, there's an attack, or during that rather, there's an attack, and the Ranger mecha have to go fight, and they're having a hard time because they're not used to bodies, and then the Rangers are like heckling them from the stones, so it's not really working out. But then after Juru sees that Fire's sort of unique inspirational style of encouragement with the students inspired them to do something different and to succeed, he brings that knowledge essentially to the Rangers to like, hey, maybe don't heckle the Stones while they're trying to fight. And so give them encouragement like they do with us. And so once he starts, or they all start giving him encouragement, the Stones are able to actually succeed and fight. We get kind of a fun machine version roll call where they get their own poses and they'll say like Karame Shovel Yellow or Karame Shovel. And then we get a different pose. And oddly enough, the machines Ranger pose, like of like literal machine stones in their bodies, is more normal than theirs, which I find funny. Like, thinking about it, you would think that the weird roll call default pose for the Kiramagers would be the stones, since they don't really know how humans behave. I found that kind of funny. And then we get big, we fight in the mecha, it was pretty entertaining. We did get this finisher, which I feel like was new, maybe I'm just misremembering it, but it was pretty cool looking. And then we end with the episode kind of, you know, on the moral or the lesson of like, you know, not really the lesson, I would say, that just kind of affirming the bond and the importance of the bond and the relationship between the Rangers and the Stones, which I thought was fun. Like, that was a fun episode. Like, it wasn't really important to the overall plot, and I'm not trying to like, sometimes I feel like I sound like I'm hyping up Kiramager too much, like, oh, it's so amazing, because this episode was only okay. But I have to give it props for doing things that I feel have been few and far between lately in some toku in regards to filler. And like, this episode was a pretty average, like, filler. And they still managed to make it somewhat worthwhile in terms of, like, people again have asked me what makes a good filler because I'm so hard on filler, especially in Power Rangers and Sentai. And this is kind of a good example of a decent mid-range filler, where the premise is entertaining enough. Again, I don't remember which one it was, but it was an episode a while back where I said, this is really kind of a silly filler, but I would rewatch it. Like, if this was on TV, I would rewatch it. And this is another one, because it was kind of funny. They made use of the premise of the different bodies and stuff like that. And then also it had a nice little development of the bond between the Rangers and the Stones. And I think they've done a pretty good job of keeping that up and keeping them kind of present. So it's not like it was so crucial and amazing filler, but they did make me feel like I just wasted my time, and I think that's a good thing. And I really liked little details in the choreography. I think that made it the most noticeable, especially with the Rangers. Obviously, the Stones didn't have choreography because they just had to sit there. Like, here's their choreography. What I also really liked is when, like, the Rangers and the Stones finally gave them encouragement to fight, they, you know, once they succeeded, it's not like they all of a sudden were perfect at fighting, just like the Rangers normally are. Like, they were still awkward. Like, Blue, you know, was fighting with the sword, and he was able to defeat the putties, but you could tell it was still, like, awkward, but he was able to pull it together, and I think that was some really nice touches. And, like, there's not a whole lot more to say. Oh, there was one other funny part I would want to mention, though, just because I thought it was funny. There was a funny part when they're all trying to figure the situation out, and Silver was like, oh, it's a good thing I didn't get swapped with my mecha, because I am my mecha. I thought it was an entertaining episode. I mean, honestly, if this was a PR filler, they'd probably hijack it with a message of never, ever, ever tease your friends, otherwise you're evil and you'll get unbonded from the Energem. Hashtag still better. Entertaining but generic filler episode, I would give it a 7. This was a fun one. Looking forward to more next week. But what did you guys think? Did you like this twist on the body swap episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.